I'm Margaret Brennan, and this week on Face the Nation, the Trump administration stages a dramatic top-secret mission in Venezuela and captures its leader, dictator Nicolas Maduro. But what's the U.S. role going forward? We'll talk to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Nicolas Maduro is now in a Brooklyn jail facing drug trafficking charges after being captured by the Army's elite U.S. Delta Force as part of a massive U.S. military operation early Saturday that reportedly killed at least 40 Venezuelans.
And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time.
The mission was months in the planning, but executed in just under 3 hours. What's next will take much longer as questions about the legality and justification of the strikes continue, as well as how and who will rule Venezuela going forward.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
In addition to Secretary of State Rubio, we'll also hear from Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Tom Cotton and the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Jim Himes. Plus, Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen will also be here. It's all just ahead on Face the Nation. Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. Americans woke up yesterday to the shocking news that the U.S. had staged a massive air attack on the capital of Venezuela and captured Nicolas Maduro. Today, we'll explore questions about what it means for the U.S. and why it's such a seismic development. We begin today with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who joins us this morning from Miami. Good morning to you, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning. Good morning.
President Trump said that the United States will run the country and that Venezuela will be largely run by, he pointed to you and some of the other cabinet members when he spoke to the public yesterday. He said the U.S. retains all military options, including boots on the ground, until U.S. demands have been fully met. How do you plan to run the country?
Well, first of all, I think the important thing to point out is that the key to what that regime relies on and is their economy fueled by oil. And right now, it is an oil industry that is backwards and really needs a lot of help and work in terms of it. And not only that, but it doesn't help the people. None of the money from the oil gets to the people. It's all stolen by the people that are on the top there. And so that's why we have a quarantine. There's a quarantine right now in which sanctioned oil shipments, there's a boat, and that boat is under U.S. sanctions. We go get a court order, we will seize it. That remains in place. And that's a tremendous amount of leverage that will continue to be in place until we see changes, not just further the national interest of the United States, which is number one, but also that lead to a better future for the people of Venezuela. And so that's the sort of control the president is pointing to when he says that. We continue with that quarantine, and we expect to see that there will be changes, not just in the way the oil industry is run for the benefit of the people, but also that they stop trafficking, so that we no longer have these gang problems, so that they kick the FARC and the ELN out, and that they no longer cozy up to Hezbollah and Iran in our own hemisphere.
What you are talking about is more of a sanctions pressure, not boots on the ground. So just to be clear, there is no plan for U.S. occupation of this country of nearly 30 million people.
Well, I think, first of all, the president always retains optionality on anything and on all of these matters. He certainly has the ability and the right under the Constitution of the United States to act against imminent and urgent threats against the country. That said, and all of that said, right now, I think what you see is a force posture was one of the largest naval deployments in modern history, certainly in the Western Hemisphere, and it is capable of stopping not just drug boats, but stopping any of these sanctioned boats that come in and out and really paralyzing that portion of how the regime, generates revenue. So that will continue to be in place. What the president has said, obviously, is, and I think what he's pointing to is that this obsession people have about boots and this or that, but he does not feel like he is going to publicly, rule out options that are available for the United States, even though that's not what you're seeing right now. What you're seeing right now is an oil